So now joining Compas on the Beat is a boxing legend. She is the first female Hall of Famer. She was inducted into the Hall of Fame with Floyd Mayweather and Roy Jones. Christy Martin, thank you so much for joining the Compas. How are you doing, and how does it feel to have Hall of Famer in front of your name?
It's pretty awesome. First of all, thank you guys for having me on today. Yeah, I mean, to get inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame was, I don't even know if you could say that was a dream come true, because women weren't allowed to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. So it's not even something that you really dream about, because it's not a possibility.
Is that correct, Christy? You're the first female boxer in the International Boxing Hall of Fame?
Well, I went in with the first class of women. I don't know if I can take claim to be the first, but I went in with the first class, so that was pretty awesome.
What was the kind of your biggest takeaway from being around so many legends?
Oh my goodness. I was really lucky, because I actually started going to the Hall of Fame back in 1996 as a guest. So I was around legends. I was around Willie Pep, Archie Moore, Emil Griffith, Carmen Basilio, Gene Fulmer. I mean, the list goes on and on. Those guys, those were legends. I mean, I'm very honored to be hanging out with, my buddy James Toney and Roy Jones and those guys. And they're legends too, but they're legends to a different group of people, right? And so have the two comparisons, to compare like this year being inducted to the years when I was there back in the 90s, and just hang out with those guys. It was unbelievable. I didn't say a word. I just listened. Aaron Pryor, Marvin Hagler, listen to their stories. And I would ask them often, like, how they train. What was their training routine? That was true to me.
Wow. I wish I could be there for those stories. I'm sure you heard in the 90s or 2000s from these legends, because I grew up a boxing fan. Fernando did too. But Christy, you're also a legend now too. I'm sure it's taking you a while to kind of get used to that here in Hall of Fame. But Christy, we have you on today to promote your new book, Fighting for Survival. Fred, my good friend Fred, you know Fred, sent me the book. I have it right here. I guess the first question on the book is, what made you do it?
Well, I feel like from waking up in the hospital after being shot and stabbed, left for dead, that God left me here for a reason. And I feel like that reason is to share my story, to talk about domestic violence, so that more people become aware of what's going on. And that so many people think domestic violence is only about bruises, but it's so much more than that. It's the isolation, it's the manipulation, the emotional abuse, financial abuse. There's so many different things that really fall under the umbrella of domestic violence. And I just want to make more people aware of more things than just bruises.
Christy, go ahead.
Go ahead, Fernando.
Christy, when it says obviously in your book that it talks about resurrection, do you feel like that night your life, like a part of you kind of died and a new person kind of was resurrected, or can you talk about that part?
In some ways, and sometimes I do feel exactly that. I'm like, you know what? He killed Christy Martin that night. But the truth is he didn't, because Christy Martin, the fighter, is still here and still fighting and still trying to survive. But the true me gets to come out and talk to people about sexuality, talk to people about domestic violence, talk to people about drug addiction, just in boxing. I mean, geez, so many people out there, as we talk about boxing, they automatically are, no, we don't want, we're not interested. We don't want our kids doing this. And then I really break it down to them and explain how boxing gyms have saved so many lives, and how it's a family in a boxing gym. And I know when I had my gym in Florida, I felt many days that the only positive human contact that some of the kids that came in the gym got was from me. But then as time passed, I realized, man, I hope I gave them something, but really it was what they were giving me, because it was what I lacked. I wasn't getting the positive, not just human contact, but the positive reinforcement, the positive life. And so I hope we balanced each other, and I gave to them, and I know they gave to me.
Christy, and obviously you couldn't get away from it. He was your trainer and your husband as well. So can you talk a little bit about, it's not like you could go to work and kind of escape from it because you were going with him and he was obviously your trainer as well. Just talk about that. Can you talk a little bit more about kind of that dark time in your life?
It was so crazy because he would wake me up sometimes in the middle of the night to tell me that I wasn't turning on my hooks right. He would, the moment that I did wake up of the day, you know, it would check my weight. He would weigh me during the day. He would weigh me at the gym, weigh me out of the gym, weigh me before I went to bed. And I get it. As a fighter, we have to stay on weight. We have to be aware of our weight and things like that. But that was just one of the situations that I was in with him. But it was always control, and then he would manipulate. Like, he had me believing that the entire boxing community hated me, that the fighters, the managers, the promoters, that no one else would train me, that the fans were against me. And I believed it. I mean, after a while, at first you think everybody loves you, and then you're like, oh, maybe he's right. So you kind of start thinking, well, you know, maybe he's right. And then by the time it was all said and done, I absolutely thought everybody in the world was against me. But that he was the only person that cared enough to help me. But that's what abusers do. They isolate you, they put you on that island and get you to think that they're your savior.
Christy, that part about control, you know, it sounds like that's kind of a big part in the book because, you know, you were raised in West Virginia. You know, there's certain ways in that part of the country. You have to be a certain kind of style, or I guess the way you live your life, and you couldn't be who you were or who you are today. And then your trainer and your husband had control. You're trying to, you know, please a lot of people as a boxing star. And then, you know, you couldn't be who you are. You couldn't come out and just be yourself. Is that kind of the big part of why you wrote the book too? For, like, you know, you went through all these portions that people kind of go through in life, and because just the way they were raised, but this is kind of the blueprint for how you could kind of come out and be yourself.
I hope that's what people take away from the book. And also a big reason for the book was not to young people or whatever your age might be that are battling with their sexuality and their identity, but the parents and the friends of those people when they do decide to come out. I mean, I want them to be supportive, and I want them to understand it's better to have that child or that friend still alive with you than, you know, they're in a relationship like I was in, where I was going to die either by Jim's hand, I was going to overdose on drugs, or I was, you know, maybe I was going to be smart enough or not smart enough, strong enough or weak enough to pull the trigger myself. So I wasn't going to live much longer, no matter what. I had to get out.
Wow, Christy, I guess kind of, you know, again, we don't want to kind of harp on to that whole night, what happened with your ex-husband, but I guess the days after, the picking up, you know, the pieces, you know, getting your life together, how difficult was that? You know, being in the hospital, and then, you know, you know, the way you are today, you know, you like you mentioned, you're a fighter, you're strong or not, but those days that somebody might probably going through something similar are probably the toughest, I'm assuming, for the weeks, the months, even the years.
Absolutely. You don't get better in a day. You don't get better in a week. You know, it takes a long time. We're 12 years later. And as I say, he doesn't live in my head rent free anymore, but he still knocks on the door every now and then. And it's hard. It's hard. People often will say, well, why didn't you just leave? Well, if it were that easy, trust and believe, I would have done it. But I was my as you mentioned, my personal and professional life were so intertwined, and he had me convinced that no one else in boxing would train me, no one else in boxing would promote me, all these things that I stayed. And I took it wasn't physical a lot with him. It was just the mental and emotional. And I took that mental and emotional beat down on a daily basis.
Sometimes those are the hardest ones to take, is the mental, more than the physical. But when did you decide, Christy, to become an advocate for this, and when did you kind of start wanting to do this and help other women or even men out who could be going through this kind of stuff?
Immediately, like I said, from the hospital bed, I knew that I'm here for a reason. And I truly believe that it's to share my story and to make everybody more aware of domestic violence, and that it is everywhere. It's not, you know, domestic violence doesn't see money signs, doesn't see race, doesn't see religion. It's everywhere. And you may think that you don't have a friend that's in a bad situation, and I hope you don't, but chances are we do. We all do. And people that are in the situation are either afraid or ashamed to talk about it. And that's why I want to speak out, and I want to try to, even if the person never has to say a word, it'll give them the internal strength that they need to take care of themselves and to get out of the situation they're in.
Lisa, on November 17, 2001, you fought Lisa Hallowine, and obviously almost 16 years later to the day, you guys got married. Was that love at first punch, or kind of how did that come together?
You know, the back in my career days, I loved talking trash. I mean, that was like I absolutely loved it. It was part of what got me ready for the fight. And then I tried to get in my opponent's head. I tried to make them so mad they would make a mistake, and it worked, because at the weigh-in, Lisa said to me, "Good luck, Martin," but I think she said it kind of like sarcastically, and I said, "Good luck getting knocked the F out." And then during the fight, I think it was the second or third round, I missed her with a left hook, and she's like, "Woo, they told me you were fast, bitch." And I'm like, "Oh my goodness," you know. Oh no, it wasn't love at first sight. No. But we sparred some later, and she helped me get ready for Layla Ali. And then let's see, I fought Valerie Mahfoud in Houston. So we were friends afterwards. It took a while. It took a couple of years before she would talk to me, but yeah, after about 2 or 3 years, we started to spar some, and then she would come to the fights.
How long have you guys been married?
We're coming up on 5 years.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah.
That's a great story, you know, from opponent to you know, marriage.
Right.
That's pretty rare, but Christy, let me take you back to the boxing days. You know, I'm guessing it must have been a lot of pressure. You know, you were putting women's boxing on the map. You're the face of women's boxing. There weren't that many at the time. Were there parts where you maybe actually enjoyed it, being in the spotlight, with fighting on Mike Tyson undercards, being promoted by Don King, or was it just a lot of pressure? What's the balance there?
That's what you want. If you're a fighter and you want to be a champion, you want to get to that, you want those bright lights. And so I feel like, you know, even though I wasn't headlining shows for Don King, I was promoted by the world's greatest promoter. And I was fighting on the biggest pay-per-view cards under Mike Tyson, who everybody in the world tuned in to watch. I don't feel like anybody could have had a better career in the 90s. I male or female, you know, unless, of course, you're Felix Trinidad or Julio Cesar Chavez, you're headlining your own shows. But no, I had a great career. I loved it. I had so much fun. And boxing opened up so many doors for me. I mean, I got to travel around the world on somebody else's dime, meet a lot of really cool people, go different places that I wouldn't. My degree's in education. I would have never been able to do the things that I have done teaching school.
Can you give us your best either Don King or Mike Tyson story from being around them?
Oh my goodness. Well, let me think. You know what? This is a true, honest story about Mike Tyson. I was at a press conference, and my contract with DK was coming up, and you know, we're waiting on the press conference to start. Mike's sitting behind me, and I just start talking to him like, "Mike, I need to get paid more money. What do I tell DK?" And he's like, "You just go in there, Christy, and tell him what you want. And if he doesn't give it to him, you turn around and walk out." And I'm like, "That works for you, Mike Tyson, but I'm Christy Martin." And then he's so cool. He was like, "Do you need some money, Christy? Can I give you some money?" And I'm like, "No, Mike, I want to make my own." But that tells you what kind of guy he was. You know, he gets so much bad rap, so much bad press, but he's a good dude. And he is there to help other people. He's bought so many computers, so many different things for kids all around the world. He does some good stuff.
Christy, you grew up playing. I mean, I saw that you played baseball. You got a scholarship to play basketball. What led you to go into the boxing realm?
Loco. You know what? I have no idea. Honest to God, I have no idea. We had this tough man contest that would come around every year to my little town in Southern West Virginia. And for many years, they didn't allow women to do that, to be in the tournament. But for some reason, I thought, wow, this would be this coolest thing. So I kept telling the promoter, you need to add women. You need to add women. Finally, one year, they added women. And I was right there to sign up to get started. And that's how my boxing career began. And never in my wildest dreams did I think about being a professional. And then when I did turn pro, I thought I'll do it one time just to say I did it. It's crazy how far boxing took me.
Well, now you're a promoter, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yes, but trust and believe, it is so much more fun. And oh yeah, to be in the ring than be on the outside of the ring. It absolutely is. It's hard work. It's hard work selling boxing, but it's hard work dealing with all the different personalities, attitudes. And these fighters today, in my opinion, they don't want to train, they don't want to stay focused. And if you're a professional fighter, you box every day, you go to the gym, you work out. If you're a plumber, you do plumbing work every day. If you're a school teacher, you teach school. But these professional fighters, I'm talking about 4 and 6 round fighters, like no, I just had a fight, I need to take some time off, or I need to go to camp. I'm like, do you guys even know what camp is? They have no clue.
Christy, come on. It's all about flexing on TikTok and
oh my God, absolutely. Isn't it? Isn't it? I mean, and that's another thing. I'm like, why do you put your stuff up on social media so everybody can watch what you do and then like they can get prepared for you? Yeah. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
And what's funny? I did see the other day, I can't remember what boxer did it. He put in slow motion him knocking out an opponent. I'm like, wait, you can see everything everything in super slow motion on how he knocked him out, how he prepared for because it was the last like 5-6 seconds of the whole, how he prepared for the knockout. And you're like, wow, you could literally study just off of that just to see how he prepares and how he loads up and everything. And you're basically giving it away to your opponents for free.
Absolutely. I don't understand it. Social media, I mean, it's great for you guys, but it absolutely is. It's terrible for boxing.
Christy, before I let you go, I guess, like I mentioned, you kind of started women's boxing. I guess for you, when you watch it now, like, I guess, how is it seeing how far they've come, the state of women's boxing right now? I know there's a lot of work to do, but, there's some notable names out there. And then even you look at the other side, the MMA, UFC world, they're really taking over there, the women's fighters.
No question about the UFC. I mean, starting with Ronda Rousey, which I'm not really a fan of, but starting with Ronda Rousey, in my opinion, she kept the UFC relevant. I mean, she really, and she started the fire for one female after another, and they have just become better fighters, I think, over there. With the boxing, I was at ringside for Taylor Serrano. And everybody kept telling me, they've sold out Madison Square Garden. And I was like, well, I hope they have, but I just couldn't believe it. I could not believe that they had sold out Madison Square Garden. I get there. Madison Square Garden was sold out and rocking. I mean, oh my goodness, when they came to the ring, it was just electrifying. I mean, the energy that was in the building was unbelievable. And then they put on a fight that lived up to the hype. And that was what I had spoken with Amanda Serrano, what text with her before. And I told her, I don't want to put more pressure on you, but the weight of women's boxing is really on you guys' shoulders. And if they had stunk up the show, it would have been a really hard blow for women's boxing, but they didn't. They lit the fire even hotter than it's ever been. So I think there are going to be more big women fights made, I hope.
Folks, that was just a little bit of a teaser. Go buy the book, Fighting for Survival, My Journey Through Boxing Fame, Abuse, Murder, and Resurrection. Boxing legend and Hall of Famer Christy Martin, thank you so much for jumping on the show with us. And good luck with the promoting and everything and the social media and guys flexing and everything. But we appreciate you jumping on with us.
Cool. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.